From Elliot Page locking horns with Peterson over his transphobic comments, to Charlie Hunnam actually supporting him because of his controversial mindset, here's how celebrities really feel about Jordan Peterson. Now, because of how popular he is, Peterson has had his fair share of run-ins with big celebs. There's no denying that Jordan has become something of a phenomenon online. I mean, the guy literally has millions of followers who consider him something of a hero of theirs. Because of that, it's no surprise that he's got into arguments with stars like Elliot Page. You can be sure the trans actor won't have anything nice to say about Peterson. After all, Peterson made a super transphobic comment about Elliot back in 2022, which even led to Jordan's Twitter account getting suspended. And the worst part? Jordan did it all during Pride Month. Now consider that he's got millions of followers who actively agree with his content. And it becomes clear why sharing dangerous rhetoric like the kind Jordan often spews out is extremely dangerous. Though you might be wondering, how exactly did this low-key professor from the University of Toronto become such a big deal? Well, it turns out Peterson is a perfect match for our current political climate. His reactionary political views and his knack for public speaking make him a YouTube and right-wing media darling. You know those videos where conservatives supposedly destroy liberals? Peterson's got a few of those, and they tend to go viral. What sets Peterson apart is that, while his denunciations of identity politics and political correctness may sound standard for a conservative, his academic background adds a layer of authority. It's like having a Fox News commentator with a PhD. Really, you can't help but wonder just why Peterson manages to create such a huge divide between people who outright worship him and those who can't stand his guts. Olivia Wilde, for example, isn't much of a fan at all. Wilde once labeled Jordan Peterson as a pseudo-intellectual hero to the incel community. Olivia mentioned this during a conversation she was having with Interview magazine about her film Don't Worry Darling. She mentioned that she wanted to frame the villain in the movie around someone like Peterson. And well, the guy's got a tendency to be a hero to some super problematic individuals, that's for sure. Now, I've got to be honest, she's not exactly too far off with her assessment. Because let's not forget, Peterson probably agrees with it too. Well, except for the pseudo-intellectual part, that is. Don't believe me? Well, later on, when Peterson was asked about these remarks during a TV interview with Piers Morgan, he framed it as another instance of being targeted for speaking to disaffected young men. And get this, the dude got visibly upset and almost looked like he was on the verge of tears. Peterson questioned the idea that marginalized voices were supposed to be heard, and he went on to defend the incels. So it looks like the guy pretty much doubled down on the problematic persona that Wilde essentially criticized him for. But I guess that's one thing that sets Jordan apart. He's totally unpredictable. Now, there are a ton of other celebrities who've shared their real feelings about Jordan too, like Yumi Nu, who straight up dunked after Peterson hurled some unnecessary insults at her. Now, for those of y'all who might have missed this entire fiasco, let me fill you in. Back in 2022, Nu had the honor of being the first plus-size Asian American model to front Sports Illustrated. And you just know that Peterson had an opinion on this. In a Twitter post, he mentioned that Yumi was simply not beautiful, and no amount of authoritarian tolerance was going to get him to change that opinion. He got a ton of flack for these comments, and even declared that he'd leave the platform because of the endless flood of insults that were being hurled his way. Nu then took to TikTok to share her response to the whole situation, and it was pretty amazing. In a video set to Nicki Minaj's Itty Bitty Piggy, Nu lip-synced in front of a screenshot of Peterson's tweet, while proudly holding up a copy of the magazine. And the best part? The TikTok video quickly gained traction, gaining over 65,000 views and nearly 100,000 likes in a week. TikTok users flooded the comments with support, praising Nu for her response and crediting her for contributing to Peterson's exit from Twitter. It was honestly pretty hilarious to see someone call out Jordan for his problematic behavior and get him to not delete the tweet, but outright leave the entire platform. That said, not every celebrity hates Jordan. In fact, some are actually chummy with him. Matthew McConaughey, for instance, is really close with Peterson. In recent times, Matthew, known for his laid-back attitude, has taken an unexpected turn in discussions about politics. The Daily Beast highlights his references to the illiberal left and his engagement with topics like cancel culture on various podcasts. As it turns out, one such podcast was hosted by Jordan Peterson, and the two seemingly hit it off. He even expressed his gratitude to Peterson in the acknowledgments of his book, Greenlights. And that's not all. In an appearance on Peterson's podcast, McConaughey stated that he shared a lot of the ideas that Jordan talks about. In fact, the star was even thinking about them himself, but he didn't have the words to really describe what he wanted to say. So when he saw Jordan be so open about these concepts, it really clicked with Matthew. During their conversation, McConaughey and Peterson delved into the topic of cancel culture, using Louis C.K. as an example, sparking a dialogue that raised eyebrows and prompted discussions about celebrities navigating political landscapes. Not everyone was a fan of Matthew being so open about his admiration for Peterson. But hey, I suppose he's entitled to his opinion just like anyone else. And it's not like he's the only star who's got positive things to say about Jordan, because Mads Mikkelsen supports him too. In fact, in 2022, Mads visited a question and answer session held by Peterson in Copenhagen. Now, most folks wouldn't even have found out about this, but the star was spotted by a fan at the event who asked for a selfie. And well, the word got out. It makes sense why Mads would want to keep his endorsement of Jordan on the down low. After all, the psychologist is definitely a bit of a controversial figure. But when you dive further into Mikkelsen's views, it does become clear why he might be interested in Jordan's worldview. After all, they seem to see eye to eye on several subjects. Much like Jordan, Mads mentioned how movements like Me Too can definitely create a culture of outrage, and how eventually it might lead to people getting in trouble for simply uttering one wrong word. If you've seen Jordan talk on the subject, he often discusses similar things, and well, it makes sense why Mads is a fan. Mikkelsen, much like Peterson, has shared some skepticism about the idea of climate change too. He's mentioned how the science is divided on it, so he doesn't plan on taking a specific stance on it. Jordan has stated in the past how scientists often overhype the idea of climate change for their own benefit, and how in the end it's not nearly as much of a doomsday event as some people like to think it is. Plus, there's one other celebrity who's totally down with Peterson's style of thinking, and that's Charlie Hunnam. While talking to Men's Health, Hunnam shared the deets about preparing for his role as a former Special Forces operative for his movie Triple Frontier. So the star had to undergo SEAL training, and it was during this that he garnered a newfound admiration for Peterson. Charlie said that people need to take their lives seriously and embrace that they've got some responsibility. Listening to Peterson helped him understand that, and he thinks that more people need to follow along with that message. Charlie also shared the resemblance between Peterson's philosophy and the mindset of Special Forces individuals. He added that nowadays, people have simply become way too soft and entitled. According to the star, no one is entitled to anything, and it should all come through hard work and effort. Because of this, he feels Jordan's message is really something that speaks to him. Now, with all that said, I've got to ask, should big-name celebrities like Charlie or Matthew really be displaying their support for Jordan so publicly? I mean, there's no denying Peterson has had a couple of interesting takes, but they can't possibly outweigh the tons of problematic stuff he's said and done over the years. So from Charlie Hunnam actually supporting him because of his controversial mindset, to Elliot Page locking horns with Peterson over his transphobic comments, that was how celebrities really feel about Jordan Peterson.